All right. So whenever you're ready.
So hi, I'm Serena. So I'm presenting based from a nursing perspective, and the panelist that I'm mirroring was Fiona Hanley. So Fiona kind of was talking about peace and others, but also was incorporating nature and the environment and how that affects how we relate to other people as well. And she was saying, since she lives, she works within the healthcare system, she talked about how that contributes to pollution in the environment, and how in our pursuit of health and protecting each other, we have destroyed and kind of ignored the issues within the environment. So there's a lot, she talked about landfills, so there's a lot of medical waste and things that are thrown out. There's a lot of plastics and chemicals that we throw into landfills. And healthcare is a huge problem, there. And there's a motto within healthcare that is do no harm, yet there's a lot of harm being done to many different aspects of our world. So damaging the environment equals damaging each other. So she talked about things like body burden and pollution in general. When you damage the environment, it all comes kind of full circle. So even though there is the environment, not necessarily each other directly, the pollution and the different problems in the environment damages our health and our children and our environments, our communities, and how we relate to each other. And it creates problems overall when trying to pursue peace with others. So she discussed body burden. Body burden is just the measure of how many chemicals are present within our bodies. So in adults and babies, they've done a lot of different measurements and tests to see how many chemicals exist within our biology. So she was referring to a specific one done on infants. So they chose 10 random infants, and they found that there were over 280 chemicals in the umbilical cord blood. And for a long time, people thought that that the umbilical cord was to protect the baby from chemicals that the mother ingests, but that's not true. Within the final developing stages, there's a lot of blood, and a lot of these chemicals are released into through the umbilical cord, and the baby is exposed to a lot of different BPAs or pesticides, flame retardants, things like that. So out of the 280 chemicals found, 180 were cancer-causing, 217 were toxic to the brain, and 2008 caused birth defects. So 280 out of 280, many of these chemicals are damaging and affect our babies on a great degree. And also in the study, they're saying that if they had more sensitive tools, that they would probably be able to detect more than 280 chemicals. But so the probability is that you're more polluted than even that statistic. There's a law that favors companies. So there's a law that passed, that 63,000 chemicals were just passed, were deemed safe to use by companies. And there's another law that says that if a company implements the use of a chemical, there has to be a law or a statement, whether it's safe or not, that has to come out within 60 days, which is not a lot of time to do studies and see how it affects different people. And a lot of companies are not required to release the information on how to detect the chemicals they use within people and how that appears within their blood. So yeah. So the way that our system works, our pursuit of fast money and production and doing things efficiently and making money off of each other, overall it damages us. A lot of the time these big companies have a lot of power over what we eat, what we do, what we ingest, and the more that they pollute, it's more unavoidable that there's going to be toxins in the air and what we interact with, and inevitably these will be carried on and passed to our children, and there's no easy way to escape it if there's any way at all. And water is us. Fiona said something at the end of her presentations that I'm going to try to quote. She was saying that water is amniotic fluid, it is rain, it is the water in wells, it is the river that flows. So the idea is just that there's the water cycle, but it's not so simple that the water cycle and all the pollution and all the chemicals that exist within that, it travels through our world in an endless cycle, and we've done much damage to that cycle. So poison communities. Fiona also talked about, so there was a woman who found that she had bladder cancer, and there are a lot of studies, or a lot of people were considering that the fact that it was a genetic cause, but the woman herself, she was adopted, so it wasn't that. So it points more to environmental issues and the issues that because of the environment that we live in, the community, the air, whatever, it affects our health. And then she found that a lot of people from her class, so people around her age, were also diagnosed with bladder cancers or different forms of it. And so the environment really impacted the whole community and how they lived and related to each other. I was also researching on the Flint water crisis. So Flint water crisis, it was a problem with the water supply in a certain town. There was lead that was leaked into the water supply from a company that were changing the pipe, like where they got their water from, and there was lead in it. And, the statistic was around 6,000 children were exposed to the water, and 200 had elevated lead poisoning. The thing is with lead that there's no safe amount of lead. Any amount of lead is problematic. It can cause death, brain defects, disabilities, things like that. And it took a long time for the government or for the companies to even repair that. And yeah, it was a bad situation. And in general, lead in the environment, and I think there's around 2.1 million homes in America that still have lead paint and who have children under the age of 6. So it's just saying that production and companies and the use of products, it affects our health and it endangers our children. And it's very difficult to fix those problems. And so now lead poisoning, it affects brain defects. These children are born disadvantaged. And we need to take care of each other's physical health and make sure that it is a safe environment so that we can relate to each other and that we have smarter children and a better future for the future generation. Fiona also mentioned the idea of ecofeminism. So the idea of ecofeminism, it kind of combines the environment with feminism, and instead it's not necessarily only feminists and only females and the environment, but it's against all forms of injustice and oppression. But it just combines the idea, the similarities that females have experienced oppression and how the environment also has experienced oppression from bigger companies that squash them down and take advantage of them. So it draws the idea that the environment is us, and we are all connected, and that we have to take care of the environment is to take care of all of us. And it brings an interesting philosophy to the idea of the environment, feminism, and how we can be part of the solution.
Well done, Serena. Thank you very much. So we'll have questions after Nick's presentation. You know what, Nick? Could you do me a favor? Could you and Serena just switch places? Take that podium, move over there, and Serena just slide your chair over there because you're backlighted, so the camera's not picking up. Yeah.
I'm a lot more comfortable on that side.
Go ahead.
It's okay. All right, guys. So I'm going to be talking about color blindness and how it's related to race relations. You guys saw a panel done by Elliot Kerr where he focused on the sociological aspect of colorblind racism. Do any of you know what it is? Anyone? Yeah.
It's when you put every race on the same stepping stone, but you disregard where they came from, the oppression that they face.
Exactly. Nice. Okay. So it's pretty much a concept which focuses on race relations where you don't see, like you said, color. You only see things in black and white. And one doesn't see race, therefore one is not racist because, what you do essentially is you don't have the possibility of seeing it. So your philosophy is that everyone is on the same level. The issue that comes with this is that we live in a place that is multicultural. So acting like it doesn't exist, like it's not existent, erases the issue at stake, pretty much. It's almost a way of saying that someone's identity doesn't mean anything to you. And part of it is accepting someone for who they are. And if you don't see someone's color and claim that you're not racist, you're unable to see something that matters with someone. And pretty much what it only makes you feel uncomfortable. So not everyone else exactly. Acting as if the problem is non-existent isn't what the ideal rational thinking person or society is trying to accomplish. And throwing issues of race under the rug as if they're not there is a form of racism, because you say that it doesn't apply to you specifically because of a condition that you have, which is not how eliminating a problem like this works. Eliminating racism is about accepting people of different cultures and not saying that it's just not there for you. It's about seeing who they are. So if you're colorblind and claim not to be racist, you're saying that people are people, but you're also saying that color doesn't exist and it doesn't make a difference to you, which is a major component of how this issue is treated. So people believe that we live in a time that no longer deals with extreme racism, and we see it as a historical problem, right? Not as a current one. The idea of color blindness and how it plays into racism is that if you're colorblind, you don't see color, so everyone is on the same viewpoint. And with a rational mindset, a person, for example, would much rather like to hang out with someone who's colorblind and claims not to be racist than with someone who's overtly racist and says, I don't like that, clearly. So colorblind racism is widely seen as a better viewpoint than someone who's racist by choice. So from a sociologist's point of view, what colorblind racism does is it ignores patterns of racism that and the fact that there are forms of discrimination very existent in the world. And you're not able to view the difference in a set of realities and therefore make the statement that you do not see and value a person how they really are. And how this is related to peace in a way, what I came up with, or like also from what I've seen from videos and Elliot Kerr's speech, is that what this does is create a wide gap between the self, which is you, and the other. Any questions?
So you had some videos to show us?
Yeah, do you want the questions first or the
Let's show the videos first and then we'll do the questions.
Okay, cool. So,
Is it a control click?
how do you right click on this?
Maybe go to like the end of the link and click enter. It might turn blue.
Control C.
Or that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't even copy it.
There, Serena's in the picture.
Up there.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah, it's not like, it's like not clickable. Yeah.
There we go. All right.
oh, shoot. Double click the video.
When someone says something like, you don't seem like a black person or an Asian person or whatever, meaning that person defies the societal expectation of what that race should be, then that's actually really racist.
You know, I may say I hate you. I hate white people. It's not going to change you from getting that loan. You go to bank.
talking about this white privilege issue, I actually think it's quite racist. You're being prejudiced towards people based on the color of their skin, and I reject this idea that only white people can be racist.
Racism shows up for me differently.
Poverty never was the issue. If poverty had been the issue, why didn't you put those poor whites out there, the poor Indians picking cotton?
In prison, there's more black people. Is this just because they're black that they're in prison? Or could it be because they didn't want to work hard in school? They wanted it given to them.
The race hustlers blame white privilege, an unfair society, a terrible country. That is the big lie that is keeping some African Americans from reaching their full potential.
Racism does not exist. It is statistically irrelevant, aka zero.
Want me to play another one? There's like a 1-minute interview.
Yeah, let's do it. If it's 1 minute, sure.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about toxicity of just the whole concept of color blindness and why it's counter to racial justice.
Well, again, it's kind of a top-down thing. It's just the concept makes the dominant culture comfortable, and it's designed to do that. So again, it separates you from the unthinkable. So rather than deal with the problem, let's act like it's not there. And that's ultimately that's what's happening. It's acting like our differences aren't there, because if we acknowledge our differences, then you're now indicted. So that's why it's toxic. It erases the indictment. So at the top level, in a macro sense, that's what's going on. But I think in a very specific, individual, person-to-person perspective, it communicates that my distinctions don't matter, right? Which would mean that my identity doesn't matter, right? And that's confusing to a young black man, because you're telling me my identity doesn't matter, yet I'm being treated a certain way because of this identity. So help me understand how these two messages coming from the same mouth make sense, right? So my distinctions don't matter, yet I'm being oppressed because of my distinctions. And then when I tell you that you're treating me like this because of my distinctions, you're saying that I'm creating the race problem because I'm the one talking about the race. It's confusing, and it breeds this almost like disdain, because I'm like, I don't understand you because what you're saying doesn't make sense, right? Not only does it not make sense, it's not how you're acting, right? You're acting like color, you're not colorblind, but you're telling me you are, So I think in all that, and then now as a believer, right, which is a whole other tier of this, is race was God's idea. Like, the Lord made us, like, he made us what we are. So for you, especially as a believer, to use this term colorblind, I'm like, I don't know what Bible you're reading. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, you're denying and ignoring a very important, specific, purposeful, and beautiful part of the redemptive narrative. It's just like, color matters. Like, it's part of the story. You know, even the idea of, like, the coming Messiah. He couldn't have been Korean. He just couldn't have been, because who his family was, what tribe he's from, where he's from, when he was born, at what time, and in what region are signs to say that this dude's the Messiah, right? And if he didn't come from this region, from this family, from this tribe, from this lineage, then he's not Jesus. Then he's not the Messiah. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the race mattered. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say that, yeah, it's toxic because, one, it erases my identity, and two, it's a self-defeating statement because I'm being treated the way that I'm treated because of my color. But you're saying you don't see it. You can clearly see it.
Yeah. And it rarely benefits.
It never benefits. It never.
I mean, it never benefits.
It don't ever benefit us. It's just saying. It's just making the dominant. It's making you feel comfortable. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's like, oh, cool. Yeah. It's in a very crude way. It's like, you know, if a husband was like incredibly abusive to his wife, and he says, well, you know, I'm scar blind. Like, I don't see scars.
Yeah,
I don't see your scars, baby.
Yeah.
Sweetheart, you gave them to me. What do you mean you don't see them? You know what I'm saying? It's, yeah, you did this. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're there, okay? You know, so like, but that makes you feel better. To be like, oh, baby, it's in the past, and I don't see your scars, baby. You're beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I am. Like, but I got scars. They're there. Yeah.
Alright, that should have given you guys like a few things he said. I also said myself in different ways, because I watched this video about like 5 times to fully understand like every single aspect of it, other than just the panel. There's a lot of cool things about this. So if you guys have any questions, I'm here for you. Yeah.
Is colorblindness actually like they just don't see it, or they don't want to see it? Like, do they just disregard it willingly, or do they actually?
Oh no, it's not like a state of mind. Like you say, like, oh, I'm colorblind. This means everyone's on the same level. It's actually a condition where you don't see. You can't see a lot of colors, right? Like, do you know more about this? Like about how people.
Well, actual colorblindness is the thing, but I mean, racial colorblindness, is that an actual mental, not a mental problem?
It's not like they don't call it racial colorblindness. Colorblind is a condition where you don't see colors. So literally everybody in front of you looks exactly the same way. So you don't understand why people discriminate or why people feel a certain way about other people. So it's like they use their condition that they have to explain why they're not racist or why they choose not to see certain things. Yeah.
I think like what it said in the video, it's actually like the opposite. That people, it's not a condition. It's like they choose to not be colorblind, but then act another way.
True. Like,
so it's not like a condition. Like, it's not, oh, I see everybody the same. I say that I see everybody the same, but then I do other things that enforce like discrimination.
True. There's also that. There's the idea that you can say you're kind of like what you said, like ideologically colorblind, sort of, and not really colorblind.
Yeah.
As a way to support that. That's also a thing. Like you can go around saying you're colorblind because everyone's the same to you, so you don't see the difference, or you can actually be colorblind and that's what you live by it too. But they both share the same issue, to me at least. But yeah, anyone else?
You can ask Serena questions as well. If you have any questions for Serena.
Yeah.
I have a question for Serena. So, Serena, ecofeminism, peace, and other. Could you elaborate on that?
Ecofeminism, I didn't really base too much of my research, but in my interpretation, I feel like ecofeminism, since it does include the environment, so peace and environment does play into what I presented and what also Fiona talked about. So I feel like it kind of incorporates all of that. And it's the idea to put us all at the same level. So the other is just as important as the environment, and they are connected. So that if you want to have good relationship with the other, with your community, you need to make sure that the environment that we both, the self and the other, that the environment that they live in is also healthy and protected, and that together you and the other are protecting the environment. So you're building that relationship as well.
Nice. What about this idea, like when we talk about Earth, what is we usually say blank Earth?
What do you mean?
Like
Mother
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
Oh, Mother
right?
Earth, her father,
So
like Mother Earth.
we have this gender associated with the planet, right? That the Earth is a woman, and there's Mother Earth, we can talk about Gaia, or there's many different notions of the Earth as our mother. Do you think that relates somehow to ecofeminism?
Yeah, I think that they also draw because even though it doesn't exclude men and helping them with their injustices, it kind of compares how yes, Mother Nature, it's been impressed by big companies or deforestation about these product-driven or like these big men in suits like taking advantage of the environment, and also how historically men have abused women and pushed them down and kept them from taking their rights, and the same thing with the government. And with the environment. So I think ecofeminism is about giving the environment and women a voice that they probably did not have in the past as much as men did.
Well said. We got some questions over here. So let's go to, who had their hand up first? Let's go Gabby and Jimmy.
If you said the environment is us, right? So like technically we're all each the environment in our own ways. Do you think by disrespecting our environment, disrespecting the other, we're also disrespecting kind of ourselves?
I think so. I feel like it's more of a butterfly effect, like physically. So if you affect the environment or you infect it with something, it'll come to bite you in the ass, and it'll infect your children. In general, it's just not a smart idea. If you want to, yes. So we are the environment, and it's just saying that we're so connected that there's no really way to avoid being part of the environment, because we live from it, we take from it, we eat from it, we thrive from it. And so yes, I feel like affecting the environment is affecting ourselves almost directly.
Jamil?
Yeah, it's more of a comment on ecofeminism. I actually did the paper, and the ideology that's behind ecofeminism is that women have more empathy towards their communities, and so in the third world, developed countries, when we give women the power in their communities, they tend to take sustainable decisions, and so it leads up to they educate their children, they educate the whole society, and it leads up in being like just more sustainable community. And we can see that in like the two countries that have a majority of women in their parliament, which is Rwanda and Bolivia. Bolivia, their whole system is based on earth instead of like being anthropocentric on human. And so that's where it comes from. It's women like have this empathy. We always say like they're more sensitive in politics, but it's actually empathy and being able to relate to others and to earth that helps. Like, this is what basically connects women and the earth.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this connection, this women being more empathetic, is that related to childbirth, Serena?
I think so. I mean, you can't really deny that there's a difference between men and women, and the way our brain is wired and works, and the different hormones that run through our body, it's different. And so yes, I feel like perhaps it's not always the case, but
That's
women,
right.
Yes, women. I was saying that ecofeminism, so women tend to be more nurturing, like Mother Nature. There are similarities between the female personification of just femininity in general, and Mother Nature and her role to her children, to us. So yeah, it's interesting.
Anybody have any question for Nick? Peace and other. So if we're have an interest or a drive to have peace in our world, or we would like to contribute to peace in our world, is working towards peace in our relationships with those around us an important step? First Nick and then Serena.
I feel like that's something I asked you one time. Did I ask
Could
you
be,
that
yeah,
one?
you may have.
Yeah. Can you repeat the last part though?
So this is peace and other, right? So you want peace in the world, but you treat your family like shit, for example. If you're like interested in having peace in the world, should focusing or putting some effort towards mending or having peaceful relationships in your life, is that important? Is that an important step towards world peace?
Yes, it is a very important step. I don't know how it would sound if I said, like, be nice to your family because it's good practice. Because, I mean, if you just see your family as practice, I guess, whatever, all I'm saying is, like, yeah, being nice to people like your family or, like, people that, you see all the time but not necessarily form, like, a major part of your life is definitely good. Because, I mean, you kind of naturally do it to everyone else. And people will appreciate that, and it's contagious too in a way, and it's kind of like a disease that can spread out, but like a good one,
Mm-hmm.
So being peaceful to other people, I mean, yeah, if you're gonna be peaceful, well, who are you gonna be peaceful to? Like, not the wall, right? Like other people and yourself too.
So you see a connection between peace in our relationships and global peace.
Well, peace to relationships is global peace, because like you're doing it to other people, and if everyone does that, then the whole world's doing it. So,
Yeah.
so it is. Yeah, it is. It's one of the first steps to. It's one of the first steps for that. Yeah.
Excellent.
I guess.
Serena, what would you say?
So just in general, like how you act towards like people that you know personally and your family.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, well, at least in what I'm talking about, I think that's the first application of peace with others. So for example, if you want less body burden or something like that, I think the first application of it would be your children and monitoring their diet and what they eat, and that they're healthy. So that's directly connected to you, and often that first application, that's where you learn, where you improve, you make mistakes, you improve, you gain knowledge, and then you can spread that knowledge to others if you
Excellent.
learn anything.
Yep, very well. Anybody else? Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So going back to what you said, like about Flint there in Michigan, like I heard that they haven't had like clean water like 2.5 years or something.
More.
For you.
Even more.
It's like what, 2011 or what?
Well, Flint, Michigan was a big motor town. They made cars, and then when the car industry tanked, the town tanked. There's a great film called Roger and Me, where you see about Flint, Michigan, and they're just driving. All these beautiful homes are all boarded up, so things kind of tanked in Flint, and I guess that's related to the lead poisoning.
Who was it? Was it Michael Moore that?
Exactly, it was
He's
Michael.
from Flint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the water coming out of the sink is brown, literally. You can't drink it. People send bottles of water to them all the time, and they keep saying it doesn't really help that much because it just runs away. It runs out right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the color blindness thing. So how does one celebrate multiculturalism? Like, everybody you meet who appears different, you go, hey, where are you from?
Oh, no.
Hey, what's your ethnicity?
No, that's...
Have you suffered racism?
Do you mean like what do I think about people who...
Well, we've got this notion...
Like, is where you're from the first question that you should ask someone? Is that what you mean? Like,
well, how we can understand how color blindness works, you just don't bring it up. You talk about anything but race when you meet people.
if you're going to talk to someone, just be normal. Just talk about whatever people talk about or whatever comes up first, Like, it doesn't mean that you got to put on this mask and be, the happy person who's always asking people where they're from, because then you just look like a goof. Because then you look like, it's about, like, being natural. I think we talked about this one time, is like asking people where they're from as the first thing is, like, why are you doing that? What are you going to get from that?
Yeah.
Unless we're talking about traveling or something, then maybe you can bring it up. I'm from this place and it's cool because of that, blah, blah, blah. But I wouldn't say it means just ask everyone where they're from and be all over the place in that sense. Like when that needs to show up, it'll show up because it has to at one point, and
And you won't avoid it.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean that that's just that's just how you should be all the time as soon as you step into a house, you know, like.
That was good.
Pretty much, and I think we talked about this one time, and even you said it, like, it doesn't mean that it should be the first thing you ask someone, and, I mean, you know, if you've ever had a normal conversation with someone, like, you talk about a bunch of stuff, and, like, if there's a topic that automatically shows up about, like, where you're from, then it'll happen, you know, and it doesn't have to be forced, you know what I mean?
Gotcha. Serena, could you comment on that too? I know it isn't your topic, but since you're a panelist.
I don't know, when you said that, like, that guy who asks you where you're from, I feel like I experience that multiple times a day, especially when I'm on my shift. Oh, where are you from? Like I'm Chinese. Mandarin? I can't do some Mandarin. Why are you working in a Japanese restaurant? I don't know. It's a little irksome. I don't mind talking about. I do talk about like my Chinese heritage, my family, and how I'm not that Chinese, and how I'm more Canadian or whatever. Like I liked exploring those topics, but like especially to strangers, I don't know why they need to know. You're not gonna make a difference in my life or how I view myself.
So what do you feel? What do you think they're trying to get at? Why are they bringing it up? Or
I don't think the person realize like that it bothers me, or that I don't think it's necessarily racist. It's just, I don't know. It's just, they're well-meaning. They probably are just curious.
Sheer curiosity.
Yeah, maybe,
sure.
Maybe it's also curiosity.
But we should be so quick to think that they're trying to like insult you or be racist. They just want to know. I mean, like I get that. Remember when you're like, oh, like yeah, you're Egyptian. Oh, that's what it is. Remember, I get that too because like I have whatever. But like it doesn't bother me because I'm like they don't mean anything by it. Like they don't, as long as they don't say something like prejudiced against Egyptians or against like wherever you're from, then I don't see the problem of them asking where you're from.
Yeah, but the problem is like because I'm Chinese, like everybody says like Asian words to me, and like half the time it's not even Chinese. I don't know. It's like at my restaurant, I work at a sushi restaurant, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Chinese, and they're like, oh, arigato, and I'm like, that's not.
Jamil?
Yeah, what happens often is that people are not, they don't mean bad, but it's kind of sometimes like fetishizing, like exotic, like when they ask her, oh, you're Chinese, then they,
Talk to me in the language.
yeah, they say arigato or whatever it is, oh, you're Arab, like they have that certain image that goes on in their head, yeah, and like, for example, I'm Palestinian, and like I get a lot of like when I say I'm Palestinian, like I can see the reaction on people's face, like oh, and you know, and this goes on the topic of like Orientalism, that like the West created like a fetishizing image of like all the other places on the earth, that like in cinema and in everything basically, that like Chinese people are in a certain type of way, Arabs are a certain type, black people like that, and like that's basically racism. It's not anymore about like me calling somebody else a bad word, you know. That's how it slips off. So yeah,
It's this, they're stereotyping you, they're pigeonholing you, they're putting, oh, then you must be this. Or they associate it to images they've seen in the media.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what you do, this is how you live.
And we're all a bit conditioned, I'm Arab, I say another Arab, like it, for example, Egyptian, oh, the pyramids, you know, stuff like that. No, seriously, like, we're all conditioned in that way, and it's not our fault. It's like when you watch Aladdin when you're young and there's all these barbaric Arab men, then you don't realize it, but you still have it in your head, and you have to, like, unlearn it.
Yes, yes. Meredith?
Okay, well now I feel like...
Don't worry.
But like, it kind of relate to what he said, like when someone asks you like where you're from, and like you say, like, oh, you're Arab, like immediately, like there's like a checklist in their mind of like the stereotypes of the person. It's like, oh, you're probably like this or this. And for the question about like multiculturalism, I believe like Nick said, okay, it's just to act normal with a person, but I feel like the difference would be that like when someone says they're colorblind, it's often when the subject of race comes up and the person of color is talking about their issues with race, and then someone just like jumps and goes like, oh, well, I'm colorblind, and then it just like diffuses the issue by just saying that like, oh,
it denies it altogether. Yeah,
exactly. It's just like, oh, like I don't see color, and I'm like, yeah, well, other people see color, and they're like,
and in a sense, you're lying if you don't see color.
Yeah, because like
unless you're genuinely colorblind.
But also the problem I have with when people ask you whatever, like where you're from, is that it kind of shows their ignorance. Like if they respond to me not in Chinese or say something, it just makes them look stupid. It makes me feel bad, right? They're just showing their ignorance and how that they don't really know much. And also it's the fact that immediately after I say it, they treat me differently by speaking to me in Chinese. Like what if I don't speak Chinese? That they like automatically treat me differently, or they make jokes. I know, they kind of have this idea of like a Chinese person in their head, and they make assumptions of who I am and what they should even talk to me about.
Juhair, and then we'll go over to Debbie.
I know you said like how can we be like more multicultural and all that. I don't know for you guys, but like in my high school we had like those days where like everybody had to bring like a plate from their country, and like we had like a big buffet, and like everyone was like, I always brought couscous because like I didn't know what people are gonna eat, so people were like, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was like a bad, like it was just fun. Like some people buy like stuff and I'm like, oh, is there pork? And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, I can really, and it's just fun. I don't think it's bad to like learn about other cultures, and like sometimes it's surprising. People don't look like what you think they're gonna be, or like some people don't know anything about their culture, and like it's interesting for them to learn it from someone else. So it's not, I mean, multicultural is good somehow. I don't know.
I think multiculturalism is great, but it's not all of who you are. Like you're where your parents are from or your grandparents are from. And what if your grandparents come from different places? Then who are you, right? It's
She wants to say something.
yeah, sure. Sorry, Gavin.
But that's not what multiculturalism is. Like what multiculturalism is celebrating literally all those differences. Maybe that's not who you are, but you're celebrating your identity with, let's say, his identity and everybody's identity, like mixed.
Like multicultural day, do I go, okay, so I've got Norwegian, I've got Croatian, I've got Egyptian, I've got Spanish. Which plate do I bring?
All of them.
You know, like, or the Labrador, like, I eat different foods, different days, you know.
The one you see yourself more comfortable with, but also what.
Sim. But then, but where are your parents from? There's that, you know, you can't bring a putsim. That's not acceptable. It's multicultural.
Well, I mean,
what are your roots?
When your kid will go to school, where will he say your father's from? From
Canada.
Exactly. So just you bring a Canadian dish, like you're Canadian.
But what is a Canadian dish? Like for me, Canada is a mosaic.
It is.
Like it's we're all together. You know, it's
some people tend to reject that. Like I feel like mostly elderly people that don't come from here. Like my grandma, she's a modern Egyptian, but she teaches at Champlain College, and whenever she talks about her students, she's like, yeah, she's a very nice Chinese girl. I'm like, why add Chinese? Like, what does that add? Like, oh, he's a very nice young black guy. I'm like, okay, I don't need to know that he's like, what does
she's
that
not colorblind.
No, but she's the exact opposite. Like, there's racism, there's colorblind racism, and then there's like color seeing racism.
Yeah.
Like, she's saying, oh yeah, very nice Egyptian, like an Egyptian guy, like speaks Arabic. I'm like, yeah, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. Like,
you got Olivia?
Well, what she said just reminded me of something that happened this morning. Like when my dad was driving me to the metro, and he does that a lot, like her grandma. And we were in like my taxi, and I saw like a little kid that I knew, and like I tutor little kids. And I was like, oh, I know that little kid, and he was like, oh, look at the little cute Chinese kid, and I was like, what's the relationship with Chinese and like a little kid? I'm just saying that's a cute little kid, like. Why do you have to say it's Chinese too? It's like, and he always does that.
He just points out what the ethnicity or the look of the person.
Yeah, that's why I hate going out to eat with like older people.
embarrassing, you know. Where are you from? And I was a waiter. I knew it. It's everyone's dad or whatever, you know.
Any questions from back here? Puya.
Yeah, well, I think the question that we have to answer, like, which is complicating a bit our discussion, is a part of our identity, or at least, no wait, is our identity, or at least some part of it, determined by our race, nationality, whatever you want to call it?
It is. It's undetermined. Like, it is part of who you are. It's just you have to learn to construct yourself based off of that and not solely on that. Like, you're a product of your origins, but also of your experiences and how you've lived your life in the country that you're in, and like where you, if you've traveled, like let's say you've traveled nonstop for the past 2 years, you haven't really lived in Canada, but you were born whatever. You can't really say you could say I'm originally from Canada, but like I've been everywhere, so like I have a bit of every place in me. Like you are everything. You're not just one.
Puya, response to that?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a very personal, like, it's a very personal thing. Like, it depends on how you, like, my personal view would kind of be like yours. I think that we are a product of our experiences and our, you know, like, what precedes our birth, which is like our parents. They're a product of their education. So, like, ultimately, yes, we are a product of race, nationality, or culture, whatever you want to call it. But, like, what that would imply is, like, this is a contradiction I'm trying to deal with, like, myself. What that would imply is that stereotypes and classification and categorization of society is, like, an actual thing, because, like, you can see, okay, so this experience determines, you know, like, it's not just random.
It has some influence.
Yeah.
More influence for some than for others. And depending on which cultures are your background and which cultures you've been exposed to and your education and your field. So there are many, many elements that constitute a person, right? Ethnicity being one, and taking more room or less room depending on who you are. Juhair?
I think what's worse than you ask where you're from is people asking you, like, assuming your religion, like right away, right on the spot. Like I went to to live in Toronto in like a university, and like most of the people that came with us were like white people from like far, like Quebec, but like Quebec, like Quebec. I don't know, like those like regions I've never been, and they're like, I mean, like they didn't mean, like they weren't mean about it, but like they were like, oh, what's your name? And then I say my weird name, and then they look at me, they're like, hey, t'es-tu musulmane? Je suis comme, what does that matter? Like,
j'ai entendu parler de vous.
Tu sais, c'est comme, je suis une espèce en voie de disparition dans ta région, genre, comme, like, you don't even know, like, you don't know my age, my last name, like, you're asking me what my beliefs are, like, and everyone was giving me the same answer, like, the same question, t'es-tu musulmane? Hey, ton père est-tu? Je suis comme, mais qu'est-ce que tu t'en fous, mon père est quoi? Like, what does that matter, like, who my father is, or, like, they don't even know me, and I think that's like curiosity 101, like, you don't know the person, and it's the first time you see that person, and you have so many questions for them, so they're like, okay, I'm gonna ask everything I want to know about les musulmans, but like, you can't.
And can you speak on behalf of all Muslims from around?
Like, at all, I don't know anything.
Right.
And she doesn't know that I don't know anything, but she doesn't have to know. Like, I'm asking her, like, oh, est-ce que t'es allé à ta communion? Like, did you get, like, are you Christian? You can't ask someone that. Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Like, don't do that, people.
No, don't do that. Serena, did you have your hand up?
Shoot, I forgot. What was Priya talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Identity.
Yeah, well,
Oh, right.
the question is, like, is your identity, or some part of it at least, determined, like, literally determined by your
Right, I was thinking, well, when you're talking about, I was just thinking about, it's because, you know, my parents are from China, like, both of them, so I'm fully Chinese, but, like, I was born here, went to school here. I don't really speak Chinese that well, but I've been to China a few times, so it makes this weird, I don't know, like, dichotomy, juxtaposition, because sometimes I feel really guilty for not being Chinese. So when I go back to China, my Chinese is shit, and everybody says like, oh, you didn't greet the elders first, like I don't have the proper etiquette, and then I get shamed for it. Chinese people are very overt, and they criticize you very openly, so I would feel very guilty. and it's just interesting because then I come back here and you know, being Chinese is such a big part of my identity or how people see me. But I'm not even like in China. I'm not Chinese enough.
Yeah. So, right?
Yeah, it kind of creates a sense of guilt.
Yeah, I think that's what most like descendant immigrants or descendant of immigrants, minorities always feel, that they're too foreign for here and too foreign for like home. Like when I go to Palestine, they call me, oh, the Canadian. And here, like, I can't say I'm Canadian because like I don't feel like I'm accepted as Canadian neither. So I think it's the struggle that most, like, all minorities face.
Sure. Chantal? And then.
It's just the same thing like with some of us parents, we have kids, they've gone to the daycare, they are black kids. Then while the daycare, they are expected to socialize normally like every other person. And the issue of color blindness, like the educationists will not want to know that they come from a different culture, like we treat them kind of differently. And sometimes they are being teased by their classmates because of their color. And like my first daughter, she's 5, she's never been to my home country, but I do know when she goes there, she'll be considered like Canadian, because even though I do my best to teach her the most I can in my culture, but I'm just me, I can't put her in the environment because her experiences will be based on what she'll get from the environment if she was like Cameroon, and not just only what mama tells her. So she would not have known as much. If she goes to Cameroon today, she'll be like out of place. And here in Canada, it's still like
out of place.
So I'm just thinking what will become of her. I'm trying my best to make her okay. She belongs to 2 places. I teach her Cameroonian things so very much. Food, music, culture, the best I can, my language. But I know it's going to be an uphill task. And she's that kind of very inquisitive person that she'll want to know the difference, you know?
Yep.
So I know I'm up to something to let her know that she has to find her place here and maybe back in Cameroon when she finally is.
Well, that's the idea of Canada, right? We're supposed to be hyphenated Canadians, where you bring the best of your culture, and but you are Canadian, right? So Cameroonian Canadian, Italian Canadian, Greek Canadian, whatever it might be.
Just kind of like what Serena was saying, because both my parents are they're both Armenian, but I was born in Canada. So people will ask me like, oh, where are you from? And I'll say, I'm Canadian. They're like, oh, but where are your parents from? Because they see my last name and it's not like a Canadian last name.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, I'm Armenian. And if they're also Armenian, they'll start speaking like, oh, like, how are you in Armenian? But I don't speak Armenian. So I'm like, oh, you don't speak Armenian. Like, they'll start like kind of judging me, I guess.
Right, so you have
like,
that.
oh, like, why don't you speak Armenian? Why don't you know all these things? I'm like, I was born here. My parents didn't like send me to an Armenian school or teach me how to speak Armenian. So I'm just like half kind of.
Yep, and that puts you in an awkward situation. I guess the idea is that with generations, as time goes on, it'll become more and more comfortable, and we'll become more and more comfortable with multiculturalism, and we'll open our minds and hearts to multiculturalism. Gabby?
I have my integrative seminar class is migration and diaspora.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm writing it's Professor Jared Toney. I'm writing a paper on what makes a Canadian, and what makes an American, and how, like, you know, we shame the Americans for having like a melting pot like theory, and we're like celebrated for being multicultural, but in reality, what we all have in any country is our eyes. We judge people based on like what we see. It's as plain as that. Like, if like, let's say I go to your restaurant and I didn't know you, and I'm like, oh, like, okay, like, she works in a Japanese restaurant, she's probably Japanese. Like, literally, the people look and they just make assumptions based on that. My last name is Grégoire. I speak English. I speak French, but like better English. And my mom's Egyptian, born in Texas. Like, what do I make of that? You know, like, people are just like, oh, like, you kind of look Canadian, but not. I'm like, kind of look Canadian. Like, what's that supposed to mean? We're all from different places. That's what Canadians are. We're not even a country of people from here, except for like the indigenous who are like shoved into like one little place. But we're like from everywhere. So like, I mean, but different countries don't see it like that. They see it like you're either like if I go to Bangladesh, you see predominantly Bengali people. You're not gonna see like a Canadian just walking around being like, yeah, hey, I'm Bengali. Like, they all have that really tight culture, and then here we are very open, or we're supposed to be. and so they don't, that's why there's like a middle, like where we don't feel like we belong anywhere, because like over there, like you guys said, you guys don't feel like you belong because they're very closed in what they expect. And here we try to be open, but we let our vision kind of defy what actually is.
Mhm. Maybe with time. My hope is with time. All right. Well, and then we're talking about heritage, but we can also talk about where one person is from. Nick, you want to tell us? Because I think it's interesting. And it's an add-on. So what's your story? Can I tell your story? So Nick's Greek, born in Argentina, raised in California, ends up in Canada, right?
I mean,
So
when I go to Argentina, nobody knows what the hell I am. Like they know I was born there, but I'm the farthest thing away from being born there. So, you know.
Yep.
It's like, okay, if you tell someone, yeah, I'm from here, but deep inside, you know that when you go there, people don't think you're from there.
That's right.
Then, you know, let me tell you where I'm from. I'll tell you because I know where I'm from very well, you know, like. So,
we each
you
know
so
where
you
we're from.
Exactly, yeah.
And we each know who we are.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much. That was awesome. So you want to take a little break before we put the music on, but not too loud?
And if you want to stand up to see like what's happening, please do so.
Yeah, feel free to stand, come around, pick whatever. Yeah.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
And switch.
Wake up in the morning, see your sunrise, go down. Found their lover, picked their prey, but they never found them. Wow. Wouldn't you make you cry, make you break down?
Switch.
Illusions of love. And is it over now? Do you know how? Pick up the pieces and go home. Like all ancient queens, follow those who stand in your shadow. True love makes that lover. You better put your kingdom up for sale. Up for sale. What did she make you cry? Make you break down?
Last switch. It's done.
Sorry about that. Trying to save time there.
I think the black. Nice smiling face. Well, that's the thing.
So, is there an epilogue?
Well, pretty much what we wanted to do was like incorporate each of our art and anything that was on our mind into our like an art piece, and how like that could be piece with other, essentially accepting other people's art and allowing their ideas to be incorporated into our ideas and like just be mixed up.
It's like a union of ideas of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you pre-plan what you were going to do?
Well, no, not really. I was hoping, like my expectations were more of an abstract side of the spectrum of the arts, but some people, okay, like they created objects, okay, that personally makes them, like for example, the one on the farthest one kind of looks like a bird in flight or a plane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like so. My my original idea was more focused on the usage of color and like the art, the way that the art is applied, and less the images that are portrayed. But the end result is still symbolizing in a sense of like the main idea in the forefront, which is justice and like the freedom of a bird. I'm guessing like the learning part of like riding a bicycle, and you know, like the subject of gender, and so yeah, it's just a sort of like team effort, and that's why.
Awesome. Anything to add?
Yeah, when we did our presentation in reception, when we were still planning to do it, we came up with some things that they are very much reflected here. The gender equality, justice, freedom, love, nurturing, industry, and stuff. So we came up with these themes, and we try to like not writing them down, but just using symbols to represent these themes, and then to like put them to peace and the other. Because if you are peaceful with another, there's going to be love,
Yeah.
there's going to be equality, there's going to be justice, and all those things. This is actually what is reflected in our paintings.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. And since we're all contributing to one another, we're not separate entities where no one is in a vacuum.
For the teamwork and the
Exactly. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
We should get this one, that one, put up somewhere.
Maybe
The
that?
gender one? Should we put up somewhere?
Oh, yeah? Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. So.
You gonna do a standing up?
Yes, I will do a standing
All
up. Yes. Okay. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Berubé.
Okay. So. For this project on Peace and Others, I decided to, well, at first I was thinking about doing an experiment with you guys, but I was like, it's too complicated. So I decided to do something I liked, not especially good at, but I like it, so that's it. So I wrote a song, struggled a bit in writing it, but finally managed to make something out of it in reaction to one of the last conversations we had about how maybe searching for peace with others is going to bring peace to yourself. So that's the basic theme inside my song. So at some point in the song, like I'm gonna finish my chorus with maybe those around me can help, and after that I'm gonna start like sing. Who's gonna do it? So you get spotted in the song. Hey yo, hey yo. There. I encourage you guys to join me or clap, do anything, because that will be your participation part of this assignment, okay? So if you don't do it, I will see you. Outside of class. Alright, so here's my song. It's called Would It Kill Me? Alright. Walking down the street, listening to my music, just looking down at my feet, forgetting about company. Lately, I've been thinking I should unplug those soundy rings, even though it pleases me. It's not like giving for free. Would it kill me? Listen up. Would it kill me to open up? Peace inside myself. Maybe those around me can help. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Some days I regret all this time on the internet spent with people far away. What about those right next to it? I don't think they would think less of me if I showed a bit of kindness, some attention with that please. Maybe this will bring me some peace. Would it kill me? Listen up. Would it kill me to open up? Can't find peace inside myself. Maybe those around me can help. Would it kill me? loosen up. Wouldn't you me to open up? Get my peace inside myself. Maybe those around me can have. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, and I say hey yo, hey yo, one last time. Hey yo, hey yo. Hey.
Hey!
If you want to write a reflection on that song, be as critical as you want. If you say that guy's voice is shit, I don't mind, just do it. Like Peace with Others also works with criticism, so please do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Phil. Brilliant.